My name is Dariyn Jensen and I'm from Misipawistik Cree Nation. It's just a small reserve. Actually, they say it's like a drive-through town. You just stop to get gas, but actually a lot of people from the States come up there to go fishing because our fishing's really good up there. It's a very nice, tight-knit community and they have the best food. If I'm being honest, like if I could go eat anywhere in the world, it would be back home because they just have the best food. It's just homemade and everything just tastes so good. My mom's grandparents used to live there and my dad's grandparents used to live there. What are residential schools? In my opinion, were something that Indigenous children were taken to. The point of residential schooling was to strip all the native out of the children but their blood. And by the point that they graduated from their institution, they would have none of their culture left. And I honestly think it was a form of genocide. Is because we owned a lot of land and we were different from the Catholics. We didn't believe in a God. We believed more in a creator. We didn't follow the rules that they did. We followed what our culture was. Do I know anyone that was in residential schooling? Yes. My papa. I don't know much about his experience. He didn't like to talk about it or really anything, but I do know that he was sexually abused. He dealt with alcoholism, but you know, he got out of it and he made a life for himself. And it was a beautiful life and it was so great to know him. It's crazy because the only reason my grandma and her siblings weren't in residential schooling was because they weren't treaty yet. If they were, they would have been sent there. And it just makes me think because anyone who meets my grandma, she's such a sweetheart, so kind-hearted, and it just makes me think, would she still be like that today? It is so hard to wrap my mind around, you know, when all these bodies were starting to be found and stuff like that. It's like, that could have been me. That could have been my younger sister. I couldn't imagine people coming into my house and taking my sister. Could you imagine your kid being taken away from you? I saw this post on Instagram the other day and it was like, you change your profile picture to something orange, you share about these 215 of bodies they found so far of unmarked graves, but yet you go downtown and you get upset that there's these petty crimes happening, or there's these drug addicts or homeless people on the street and you don't even want to look at them. You don't even want them in your sight. But what you don't realize is those are families of generations of people who were in residential schooling. If you want to really honor those babies that didn't make it home, how about you start by honoring the ones that did and start supporting them and their families and their drug addictions and alcoholism and homelessness that they're going through because their parents were in residential school, and because their parents were in residential school, their parents came home to only know how to abuse drugs and abuse alcohol from all the trauma that they had, and that the only way of communication they knew was a form of abuse. Because of that, it got passed on to them, and then they passed it on to their kids, and it's like the ripple effect. It's hard to break a cycle when that's all you know. I honestly think they were murdered. Not all of them, some of them might have died from natural causes, but if you think about it, those kids were starved. They were beaten to death, they were sexually abused to death, they were untaken care of, they were forced to eat rotten food, they were forced to have sex with the priests and the nuns, and they were taken advantage of. And that's the life that they grew up in. And all these bodies of all these unmarked children are so sad because, you know, it makes you think, was that my family member somewhere down the line? Is that someone that I didn't get to meet? Everyone talks about this like it's ancient crimes, but the last one closed down in like 1997. They would be ancient crimes if they happened like hundreds of years ago, but what you don't realize is it happened for over 100 years. They deserve to go home. They deserve to finally rest peacefully and be found because they mattered. Every child mattered. People need to be more understanding on why the Indigenous communities are so upset. People need to stop harassing them on being upset about the situation and wanting to bring more awareness to it and wanting to honor those babies and the residential school survivors, because it's a lot easier to just brush it off their shoulder when it doesn't happen. But those are our families. Those are our people. They deserve justice. We don't want the money. They don't want the money. They don't want be like tossed around and whatever and just have this like half-ass apology. They want to know that they're being recognized and that they're being honored and that their families and their brothers and sisters and moms and dads are being recognized and honored and supported. And the Catholic Church owes them an apology. We don't blame the Pope now. It wasn't his wrongdoing, it wasn't his fault. But he could at least say on behalf of the church, we are very sorry for what happened. And until we get that, we're not going to stop fighting.